Alrighty. All right, gentlemen. Recording has begun. If you have your video, go ahead and throw your video on for a second because we're going to chat. We're going to do a little bit different format today than we normally do. I'm going to give you kind of a sneak peek on something here. As you kind of saw before, we're going to watch Stanford versus Lewis. We're trying this again to show you guys this match, but I actually pulled out the scouting report that we used for Stanford, just so you guys can kind of see what it looks like, what we kind of chat about, things that we're looking for as a team before match preparation. So I'll share this for you so you can see the actual PDF of the scouting report. We'll kind of run through this first and foremost. All right. So scouting report, this is the first match. This wasn't the second match. Second match was the following day, so we did not do a formal PDF. We kind of talked about it at Serve and Pass the morning of little adjustments we were going to make. But this is the rundown. Okay, so we have basically a synopsis of each player. So Ryan Conan, their OH1, Kyle Bouget, who's the Beta Bay alums, Lewis is OH2, and just rundown on each of kind of their tendencies and what they like to do. Right, so a lot of focus was put on Coonan here, number 8. So he's their top point scorer. Primarily, XB means crossbody or cross-court hitter. Blocking 2 on both sides means that we're blocking into the angle. The set goes wider than he expects. He's going to throw the ball down in the middle of the court, that power tip type of move. And a good all-around passer. So kind of just talks about different players like that. Kyle Bouget, main difference, jump float servers for Stanford. We were targeting him every opportunity we got to try and get him on the ball. And we'll show you a little bit of stats around that. The other 2 big positions for Lewis, they had to have a very good tandem of middle blockers. So Tyler Mitchum was the number 2 overall hitter and point scorer on the team behind Coonan. Hits slightly wide on his A. A is like a 1, and away from primarily AB, which means away from body. Looks to block the crossbody. We will look to block his crossbody, which is more down and not diggable, right? So his crossbody swing was more of a bounce, but when he goes away from body, it was a little bit deeper and kind of funneled into the libero. So those are kind of the little, you can kind of pick up on the things that we're talking about. JS means jump serve, JF means jump float, just the little words that are being used there. Okay, so just at the very bottom, we'll put some notes on backups, guys that could potentially come in and fill a spot for one of the starters. But we're mainly preparing for the players that we believe we're going to see after watching them go through about a month of the season. Okay, and then finally the notes. So no specific serving targets for the Stanford guys. Just hit your best serve every time. There's a little bit of a note for jump float guys. If you're going back and we can kind of pinpoint on the jump float, we were trying to serve Bouget. Middle blockers looking to run J's. J's are back 1s. So really trying to hold the left side blocker and score from there. So basically, if we can run a back 1 with the middles for Stanford, it would freeze Murray and Mitchum, the 2 middle blockers, to have to wait and respect, and also hold the left side blocker in more, so they couldn't go camp out on Jalen, essentially. Middle of the court for Lewis was open, or is open a lot of tips from what we saw on film. Right, so if we got into trouble, looking to try and shoot for the campfire area to score a point there, and then sending free balls to area 1 and 2, especially when Lewis is in the 4-2s. The 4-2s means when the setter's in the front row, the 4-2 rotations. So row 4, 5, and 6, when the setter's front row, they have their opposite hitter take free balls in that area. Some teams like Stanford will move the middle into that area to take that ball so that the D-ball hitter has a full runway and is an offensive threat. So it helps keep things spread. So anytime the setter is front row, thinking about throwing the ball into short area 1-2 to try and take the D-ball hitter out, which then basically removed an attacking option for them and allowed our block to bunch over even more. Okay. Any questions on just seeing this initial part here, this kind of scouting report and notes? There's more to it, and I'll scroll down so you can see it. But feel free to unmute yourself if you have a question or something looks interesting, or you don't know what a specific phrase looks like, anything like that.
Real quick, Coach Matt.
Yeah.
Is this pretty standard in terms of the terminology and kind of the nomenclature, like AB, XB, XC, and all that stuff across programs?
Yeah, these are pretty standard. The like the J and stuff like that. There's a couple different things that Stanford will do, different. And it's just kind of, the jargon that we use or the Kosti comes up with and kind of gets adapted like that. But for the most part, cross court, angle of approach, away from body, stuff like that is pretty standard.
Okay.
So,
Got it.
yeah. All right. And then this is going into the volumetrics report. And so whenever we watch film on these Friday sessions, we're using a program called volumetrics. And basically it's each contact is being coded. And if you ever come to a game and I have a computer on my lap on the bench, I'm actually doing that live in game. But it's coding everything out and it's rating every single skill. So each pass is rated on a 4-point scale. Each attack is rated. It tells you where it was attacked, when it was attacked, rotations, all that good stuff. Okay, so then you get a lot of data from this. Okay, and so this is the setter distribution on perfect and good passes. So if you're on a 4-pass or a 3-pass, like your setter's in a great spot, this is what the Lewis setter offense looked like. Okay, and then there's some notes written on here about what Stanford was looking to do blocking wise and defensively behind these rotations. So what you can kind of see is the bluer a square is on these reports means the more sets that go into that area during a perfect or good pass in that rotation. Okay, and so it goes, you can kind of see the faint 4 at the bottom of it, 5, 6, that's row 4, 5, 6. Okay, and so some big things that we saw, obviously Kunin when he's front row is getting a lot of sets in those areas. And then, in this rotation, row 3, I believe that's Mitchum. Mitchum on perfect passes and serve receive was getting a ton of balls, right? So those are times where we'll say, okay, let's take a percentage chance here and we'll put a commit block with our middle blocker in row 3 here on a perfect pass, stuff like that, right? So there's lots of data that goes into thinking about how teams are approaching it. Obviously, at the club level, you're not going to have this amount of data on teams, and we're not sharing film and stats from across the entire board, but you can kind of get a good picture just by watching a team to try and figure out, all right, in this rotation, what did they do against us last time in this rotation, right? Did they run an X in row 1? Did they run an inside play in row 4? Whatever it may be. So just trying to be aware in certain scenarios. And then this is distribution and transition. So if they got a dig in these rotations, who were they going to, right? And so you can see Kunin was getting the ball a ton, right, in these circled rotations here, row 1 and row 6. A lot of balls just going his direction. If they had a chance, if they had any kind of dig, they were just going to throw it up there and let him try and go and score. Okay. Yep. Here's the hitter chart. So kind of a spray chart for each swing. Red dots means it's an air. Yellow dot means it got dug. Green dot means it's a kill. Okay, you can kind of see where our defense was set up here, right? Your right RB, right back defender, CB, center back defender, LB, left back, and then left front of kind of what we were trying to do on the spray chart of where we were defending, all that good stuff. And then this is the serve receive stats. And so you can kind of see here, the dark red means they had a reception error. Red means the not dark red is a bad pass. These are medium passes and okay passes, right? So who would you serve as you look at this? Who would you try and serve? I'm going to go to Marcus. Who would you try and serve looking at these rotation stats? Which player on Lewis would you try and get the ball onto if you could?
I would serve 8. Mitch.
Yeah, he's the middle blocker, so ignore him.
Okay.
So he's not going to be in serve receive. Those are just the small amount of samples that he ended up taking a ball.
All right. Then I'd choose Gibbs, number 5.
Okay. All right. He is the opposite, who rarely passes, but that's the tough part. So here's your options. I'm going to give you number 4 is the libero, 21 Bouger is OH2, and 9 is OH1. So the first 3 rows, those are the people you can choose from. Who are you going to pick?
Then I'd choose Bouger, 21.
Bouger. Why?
Because he has 18% on he has the lowest perfect passes and the most errors. Correct.
There you go. Right. You can just look at the yellow, how far down his yellow goes on that bar, right? If you're looking for a bad to medium pass, the highest chance you're going to get is if you serve Kyle Bouger. it's probably his club coach didn't train him well enough. So that's on his club coach for sure. Okay. All right. And then this is serve breakdown. So that is, you can kind of see there's a lot of info that goes into the scouting reports and what it looks like, how it's prepared, and the way in which we as a program will approach kind of, all that information. There's always the chance, we always have those conversations of like too much information is not good, right? You want to have a general idea, you want to have a concept, but when it comes down to it, we just need to be able to go out, play your game, and know certain things that you're trying to do. Setters probably are going to have a little bit more deeper understanding of a scouting report of what coaches are trying to look to do and attack and how to approach that. But for the most part, there's a lot of info here. Main things that you want to take away is who's my serving target, what's our block scheme look like before each rotation, right? So if we go back to the rotations here, it kind of just tells us in row one, we're running a balanced read, right? So blockers are very standard across the net. In row three, left side bunch, help. So we're looking to push over and help with the one in that rotation because that's a one where they set the middle a lot. So stuff like that you can prepare those 6 rotations in knowledge ahead of time, and you're trying to understand those. But when it comes down to it, we just got to go out and play. Okay, so a little bit of a behind the curtain look of what a scouting report in college looks like. Okay, I'm going to stop this one. I'll go to the film. All right. Second night, Stanford versus Lewis. We are back to the first one here. Stanford lost in 4 sets in the first match. We're playing right away here for the second night. If you were here on the film call the last time when we tried to watch this one before it got really bogged down on internet. Things to look at. Lewis's bench. Tons of energy, fun one to watch, a good example of staying engaged and providing value even when you're not in the court. And then for Stanford, number 16, who you can't kind of see right now, Nathaniel Gates, middle blocker, is playing in his first start of the year. The night before, Kyler Prescia sprained his ankle against Lewis and was unable to go. So just kind of seeing what a freshman being thrown into the fire per se, how he does. Okay, so we'll just watch it out from here. That's a nice spinning double on Lewis there. You got Gates back here. Yeah, 2 sets right away to the middle. There's that J that Stanford talked about, right? So getting behind the setter on the back one, holds Bouger. Bouger kind of started leaning out to go get Jalen, but then got caught, so his hands weren't over the net. So they get a back one kill. Float serve targeting Bouger. That's a good swing. So thus far, going according to game plan, strategy-wise. Love this set here. This is a great reverse flow play. Pause it. Right, so all the way over into area 4. Mitchum, Lewis's middle blocker, is basically fronting, reading that pass. So he's getting into the short zone so he can defend those 2 areas of attack. And then you got Jalen all the way back on his own. There's his point of contact, so you can kind of see what the block looks like. Kunin is up very, very high because he's a big dude. But Jalen's got a lot of room to play with here, right down the line. He could attack the angle, probably into Mitchum's hands, and still get a pretty positive swing, if not a tool out of bounds. Whenever Lewis does something cool, I highly recommend looking at their bench to see what they do. So if you see a good block or a good kill, just watch their bench. A couple serves. This is a nice one as well here. Okay, I like this just strategic-wise. Setters running your middle, gets a transition. Middle's just finding a way. Look, he's got no approach here, but he's just going to think. He's thinking throwdown right off the bat, right? He's just trying to put himself in position to be available, intercept a set, and jam it. That's all he's doing. There's no intention to swing there at all, and it's a good play. So middles, if you're seeing that, just thinking, okay, if I can yell, get up, be available, I can help my setter, I can help my team here. And it's a tough one for the block to try and defend as well. Okay, scramble play, trying to live to fight another day here. Yeah. Trading the serves. Keep on going. Float serve onto Bouget. This is the rotation where they are in the bunch read. They're trying to help. Tough. We'll go back to this real quick just because I want you to see what that bunch read looks like. Okay, so serve goes, and just watch number 4, Beatty for Stanford. Okay, so he's bunched in there even though that opposite's front. All right, so really trying to help, knowing that Mitchum's the big priority there. There's the J, right? So just watch with the J in this, right? What if you see Stephen Moy for Stanford? He's all the way over in area 4 right now, right? Coming out of server C. So he's got a long way to go on this. Good pass. He gets behind the setter, right? It's a good pass enough that Mitchum has to respect every opportunity here. So he's not fronting the middle, right? So now you've got this nice gap. You can see Bouget is leaving to go try and get Jalen. So he's already taken a step out towards the antenna, right? And especially with the look of that ball going overhead, right? You see that move and your automatic thought is the guy in your zone. But since Steven's in that spot as well, it becomes that much more confusing. He's got pretty much a free swing. There's no hands over the net by the time he's contacted the ball. All right, so not a pretty kill, but an effective one, and one where blocking-wise, they're going to have to start thinking about that play over and over and over again. Good help there on the pipe. Blockers watching Beatty, number 4 here. He's reading for the D ball because that's in his zone. They set the high pipe. He doesn't give up. He recovers and just gets himself back into position to protect the center of the court. Right, never giving up on the block. It's always better to have more hands penetrated across the net prior to contact than to lose a defender. Right, if Beatty just gave up on that play and looked back, that ball is going to be attacked deep into the seam, a much harder ball to dig. Got him. Look at that again. Good run here, right? Setters, middles. This is a middle play right now, right? Mitchum is the one that makes this happen because he's charging hard. He's an option. This is, I believe, was in row 3. So Steven's in one of those commits, right? So he's committing on Mitchum. Beatty's thinking, watch out for Mitchum. And then the Bick is overhead, put it away, right? So that gets set up by just imprinting on your opponent's mind, middle of the court, middle of the court, middle of the court, got to stop that middle attack. And then all of a sudden the Bick is there over top, and it's really tough to think about both. Nice tool and swing there. Nice scramble play. There's the J. Love it. Okay, great rally. Let's come back to this real quick. Again, just thinking about the J. All right, so we win the joust. We get a free ball. Now watch Steven. On the J. Mitchum now takes a little stutter step thinking, okay, I got to get back. I got to be ready for the J here. Same thing that the Kunin on the left front is thinking, okay, I got to defend the J also, right? It freezes Mitchum just long enough. He gets challenged there, isn't able to get all the way out. Rotman goes down the line because it's open, but showing you just the different angles that it's creating based on, what route the guy is running. And we're going to pause there for a second. All right, throw on your video if you got it. Let's go over what we've seen. Okay, so thinking about the Jays, what other routes, right, J being the back one, what other routes do you think can be used to change the point of contact, to add extra pressure onto the block, to make it a little bit more that they have to think about, right? If they had to make split-second decisions between two options, what are those types of plays that can be used?
You can use a flare. So you go look like you're gonna hit straight, and then you jump to the side, and then you hit to the angle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that flare route, the middle's run. So it's basically a push, but you make it look like you're running a one, and then on the last step close, you actually jump to the left and get into space, right? Because if you think about it, think about this for blockers versus blockers and attackers. You guys as attackers, generally speaking, know where your setter's going to set the ball, right? You know where the point of contact is before the set's been released. Blockers do not, right? What are blockers trained to look for? What do you guys look for? When you're a blocker, what are you trained to look for to try and identify what's coming?
Ball and the attacker.
What about the ball?
So you look at the ball 2/3 to see where it's going, and then you look at the attacker to see
2/3 of the flight, the set, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're watching the set, and at any point, do you guys as blockers feel like you try and pick up the approach of the hitter? At any point? I see a couple nods. Okay. Right. If you think about it, if you're seeing a player go for an approach, if you see a middle go for a 3 approach, right? Middle blockers, they a lot of times will front. They'll move over to that 3, right? So what happens if you show a 3 approach, but then all of a sudden you flare inside, right? Which is a play that Long Beach ran really well last year when they won the national championship. It's a little bit of a reverse, almost a reverse slide. So you look like you're running a 3, and then you run a slide approach in, and you actually hit a 1. Thinking things like that. What other plays do setters or players use to kind of trick the block? Riley Wagner, what's a trick play?
Like when you go up with your approach, like going cross court angle, and it's like the flick of the wrist that goes down the line, like using that to direct the ball in a different way than they would anticipate it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. If you were on here when Colton Brooks was on our video call talking about how you use your approach to set up certain shots, right? Thomas Jaschke does a really good job on the national team, does a really good job of showing super hard angle, but then he'll come back for that power tip down the line or that chop shot down the line as well, right? Using your approach and your body, how you position your body to try and trick blockers, essentially is one. What's another route, right? We've talked a lot about the J because that was a big strategy to kind of freeze blockers into that zone. What's another route that can be used?
An inside set to the outside?
Yeah, exactly, right? Instead of just running your outside hitter to the pin, to the pin, to the pin, to the pin, you can run them on a some kind of inside lob set that just changes the point of attack, right? So rather than it just being at the antenna, now all of a sudden the set's being lobbed a little bit more inside, and we're able to charge into that gap quicker, right? And so for a right side blocker who's, throughout the course of a game, if you've made, 8 block moves to the same spot over and over and over again, and you see that release go towards the outside hitter, you think, okay, your body just naturally starts doing the same move. But now that ball's stopping short, and now you're trying to recover back, and it's opening up different gaps. It's just making blockers have to think more rather than getting don't let them get mindless on you. Don't let them just keep doing the same thing over and over again. Another ones are X's, right? Coming out of you using your right side or outside hitters in rotation 1 rather than running a red or a 5. You come in and you run a 2 that wraps around the middle attack. So just kind of a different tempo that comes through in different spots like that. Right, tempo is one way we can change. You can change it up. Russia actually runs a play. They have a 7-3 middle blocker where they will show like they're running a normal 1, and instead of he'll full on commit looking like he's going to jump, and then he just stops and actually doesn't jump, and they set like a 2 ball. The middle seeing that commits on like what he thinks is a 1 because he sees the middle down like this, and then as he lands, the Russian middle blocker just does a pop jump and pops this ball down. I'll try and find the link for you. It's a pretty funny one to watch. So that's different ways, right? Using trajectories to change the point of attack as well. So some interesting things to think about there as both attackers and as setters. What have we seen from Lewis's bench since we talked a little bit about that? Ryan Collins, I believe you were at this match, so let's hear from you.
Yes, me and Marcus were at the match.
Yes, that's true.
They had like different celebrations for like different plays, or like when different people were serving. Like when Kyle Bouget would serve, they'd all go like shh right before he'd serve. It was actually really funny.
Mm-hmm. Okay, different celebrations for different times. All right, you were there. What was the vibe like? Did you like the vibe of the Lewis bench?
Yeah, I think it would probably, like, for any incoming players, it'd be kind of awkward because, like, I bet none of their club teammates ever did that, and they probably never did that, so it's like kind of weird at first. But like,
Sure.
it looks like a lot of fun to do that. Like,
right, definitely a different culture per se, and each team will have their culture, but I like it. I think they bring a lot of energy. I think they're engaged. Looks like their team is together, right? I think it looks like they're bought in, and that's an important one. Okay, what else? Any other things that you guys have picked up on thus far? Before we'll watch a little bit more of this set before we go, but want to make sure I break and see if there's any questions that you guys had. Anything from the scouting report that you've seen besides the Jays and the float serve to Bouget that you've seen that Stanford has done a good job of, or hasn't happened yet, or anything along those lines? Anyone remember some notes from the scouting report? Anyone remember what Stanford was supposed to do if they got in trouble on a swing?
I saw that like the Stanford did pretty good at getting the line shots where they were that Lewis was doing.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I agree. Anyone remember what they were supposed to do if they're in a tough set situation, like if they get a set that's not there for them, what were they supposed to try and attack? What were they trying to shoot the ball to?
Campfire.
Thank you. No, that's right. Yeah, so aiming for the campfire. Lewis's defense pretty wide, pretty perimeter based. They don't. Watching film of them, there were plenty of balls that we saw where kind of those throwdown tips, or even just a general tip to the campfire middle of the court area was effective and scored. Right. One other one that was on the notes that there was only been one opportunity thus far, but they did do was when sending a free ball. Where were they trying to send it to? Who were they trying to get to take? Anyone remember? Ryder, where do you think they were supposed to send Stanford was supposed to send free balls to Lewis?
I saw it in like area 4-ish, so maybe like center or middle.
Okay. The answer was area 1 or 2. They were trying, and the reason they were doing that is specifically when the setter's front row, the opposite who's in the back row is the guy that they put there to take free balls. Right, so they have their middle stay in the center of the court. They don't move them. They don't move them behind to protect that spot. So you're able to take out the opposite. And Stanford did that once. At one point, that play did happen. They took out the opposite, made him pass the free ball, and then you see the left side blocker see that play for Stanford, see that opposite get taken out, and he scoots over and pushes into the center of the court to help with the dump in the middle. Okay, so that was a good one there. So those are things just to be looking out for through the remainder of this set. We'll watch about 10 more minutes, and then we'll go. Got Bouger on the jump serve there. It's a great out of system swing. We'll watch that one just because it was a watch his approach here. Has a big runway off of a bump set. He's patient. Big step close. Keeps his arm contact high. Takes it over the block. Takes some off of it, but just keeps it high and gets a good snap into the corner. Good D-ball swing. Nice repeat after the block air. All right, this is a mistake from the scouting report. Okay, so we're in the 4-2 rotations. We've got Lewis with their setter front row. D-ball is nowhere, right? They use Bouger here, but rarely. And Rotman's job in this scenario is to get stacked over even more and defend the middle of the court, defend the quick attack. This guy doesn't dump very often, and he commits on the dump, right? And when that happens, Nathaniel Gates gets a little bit out of position as well. He's expecting a different look from Will there, so he gets a commit, and now we've got one-on-one. And you can see Will at the end say, "My bad, I messed that up. My bad." Right. So just knowing those pre-rotation block strategies that we're trying to accomplish. When one part goes wrong, it all goes wrong. And so we got to do a good job of knowing what our job is, what our responsibilities are.
Hey, Coach Matt.
Yeah.
Real quick, do you think that they committed on the block because maybe the pass was a little bit tight, or what would you think was the decision making there, especially if they don't? That person's not dumping a high percentage.
Yeah, I think I forget what Will said here. I think he said I read dump or something along those lines.
Sure.
I think the issue was he was specifically told even before that play, get the middle right here, and Gates was supposed to have help to be able to go out just because he needed to have more. So we were trying to push Gates over so that he had less ground to have to cover between the two sets.
Got it.
And when that help wasn't there, all of a sudden. He had a lot more responsibility on his left than he thought he was going to have, and so everything kind of broke apart there. Didn't mean Gates was supposed to commit there either, but yeah, it was just kind of a comedy of errors with the strategy we're trying to do. Yeah, there's that throwdown. Good use of just hitting that outside hand, getting a nice ricochet out of bounds. Straight off the head. It's a nice swing here. Good look for anyone on the right side or thinking about attacking from this position as a right-handed player. Good long runway. Patient, letting that ball develop over his attacking shoulder, right? So letting that ball get there, not picking it off early and having to contact low into the angle, keeping it high. Nice down the line swing. Probably needed to get a little bit further out on the block, but that was a pretty good one regardless. There's the out-of-system tip to the campfire. Nice rally. Finally got themselves a high enough set where they could get out and attack. Actually taking a swing. Scrappy rallies. You got to win the ugly points. The pretty ones are easy. The ugly points are where it really comes together. Couple more points here. Service sub in for Stanford. Chop shot. Caught him moving. Not in a good position to make a dig. Another good rally here. Got it. One more good point, then we'll get out. Not good. One more good point for Stanford. Get out of system chance. Ooh, tough one. And there you go. That's the end of the center. Wheels came off the bus, so we'll end it there. All right. Any closing thoughts? Anything that you guys saw? Anything that was revealing from seeing a college scouting report to seeing how it's put into place in a game and adjustments to be made? Anything along those lines? Liam, what do you think? Mr. Popejoy.
I don't know. I don't have anything to say.
Fair enough. All right. Cool. Coach John, any closing thoughts from you before we sign off for the weekend? TGIF.
I like how you mentioned Nathaniel Gates playing in his first match, right? Starting his first match, because I think there was some adversity in the beginning of the year with Stanford in the setting position. So the libero Justin became the third setter, starting setter. So you talk about being ready, being on the bench, being available, being mentally prepared. It's pretty cool to see someone, being put in that position and given the opportunity to succeed, because there was a lot of adversity you guys had in the beginning of the year with just even at that setting position. So Justin had to step up there as well, right?
Yeah. Interesting dynamics for any team, right? Of just being, even if you think you're one position, you're not. You're every position, right? Being able to be an all-around volleyball player, I think, is a goal for all of you guys. So that's the beauty, I think, of when you approach training, in the sense that you're trying to be a complete all-around player rather than a position-specific guy. Good things happen for you, and the more opportunity you have to showcase a variety of skills is nothing but good. So yeah, good lessons out of that one. So I hope you enjoyed it. A little bit different, seeing some inside scoops. Maybe we'll continue with that, as long as Costi doesn't yell at me for sharing the secret sauce of Stanford men's volleyball. But yeah, have a great weekend. Got some hopefully some outdoor volleyball coming for you guys soon, and we'll be able to get that going. So stay tuned. But beyond that, have a great weekend. Say I love you to your parents and grandparents. Adios.
Thanks, guys.